Right now here in ICANN Media, we're going to be talking about risks in remote camps, and joining us is Tim Haughton with CKR Global Risk Solutions. That is the session that you held here at the GPS. Tell us a little bit about it.
It's basically, what we talk about is applicable mitigating factors for risk, is understanding the risk factors that you have and having applicable process, procedure, enforcement in place for all of those factors, whatever they are, and they should be looked at holistically. The issue that we always find is that people look at them individually. It's never an integrated service, so they'll mitigate one risk and they'll end up increasing the factors on another risk by the fact that they do it.
So why do you continue to see that pattern?
I think it's a lot of it is about the fact that security is seen as, they lump this in with security. What we say is that this is risk mitigation and life safety. Security is, if you closed your eyes and imagined security, it's the new Canadian in a uniform that is wandering around aimlessly. That tends to be the image of security. And it's always viewed as a cost center. It doesn't make people money. It's not their primary purpose. So if you're an oil and gas company, if you're an extractive company, that's not, it's a byproduct. And it's not legislated. The issue is that safety is legislated. So they have to do it. Otherwise, HSE come in and basically can shut their site down. If they have terrible security, if the risks are there, it tends to fall backwards. So it ends up as an issue for, there's more incidents, there's more accidents. It's seen more as an enforcement side, and certainly within the oil patch particularly, there's a huge issue with regard to employment. So they cannot get enough people up there. Companies are terrified about the fact that if they really enforce the policies and procedures that they have, that they will actually lose a lot of their workforce.
Now, why is that? What sort of things are they doing that would cost them to lose their jobs?
Mainly, a lot of it is about drug and alcohol abuse. We always talk about camps in the fact that they refer to camps as wet or dry. We actually say there's wet, dry, and moist. Moist is the one where it's supposed to be dry, but they don't actually enforce it. Those are actually the worst ones, simply because you're breaking your own policy and procedure, and that increases your liability. So what we do is we go in, we do initial risk assessments for corporations, and we provide the solutions for them.
So you find out, what are some of the impacts of not following this type of pattern or this type of advice?
The impacts can be huge. Simply accidents and incidents, you're dealing in, particularly in oil and gas and extractive, very, very expensive equipment, huge pieces of equipment that can kill you very easily. It's a high-risk environment. There's many more incidents of accidents. There's vehicular accidents, there's mishaps, there's misjudgments of all sorts of things, really. The problem is that they're not looking at the root cause. What they're looking at is the resulting accident, and they investigate the resulting accident. Then they're not pushing that back down to look at root cause.
One of the things you mentioned is that it's not just the fact that somebody might get hurt or killed. It's not just the fact you might have a piece of equipment out of commission for a while, but it's a company's reputation, which, as you said, could be a company killer if it goes in the wrong direction.
Absolutely. An accident can cost a company tens of thousands of dollars. Investor relations and looking at their, sorry,
We'll give you a moment. Investor relations. Yeah.
So investor relations and their reputational liability is huge issues for these companies. It can be a company killer if you look at the sheer numbers involved. British Petroleum, people like that. I mean, they actually got to the stage where they were possibly considering changing their name back to British Petroleum from BP.
This is after the Gulf.
After the Gulf incident. That is an issue, and it's with social media now. These things they're out into the public so quickly. You only have to look at anything like the riots in Vancouver, for instance. The number of video clips, the number of photographs, and that wasn't the media. The vast majority of that was people with phones, with cameras.
Just if you had some advice to give to somebody about a company as to the first thing they should do, what would that be?
You have to consider the risks. You have to understand that they are there, and the biggest advice that we can give to people is get an expert in to actually quantify those risks, qualify exactly what they are, and provide you some professional solutions, rather than just trying to make it up as you go along, because it sits on the desk of HR or the ops manager, and they have other things to do, and they're not trained in this. So bring in an outside expert. You're actually limiting your liability by doing that.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a lot.